Hi, this is Craig from Loop. I hope you're doing well. Um, I recently had a chance to visit with my brother and his wife and family for the Jewish holidays, and I spent some time talking to my sister-in-law about life with the kids in school from home. Um, Obviously, it presents a lot of challenges, and I know this is something that a lot of people are working with right now. So it just made me think that while everyone is so busy juggling their work schedule and their kids if they have them, I don't have kids, but yet fall always seems busier for me too. So I think it's just a good idea to make some time for knitting, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes before you go to bed. I think we all know that it can be very relaxing. It can help take your mind off things for a bit. There's a lot happening in the news, and there's a lot happening at home. So I think just even a short amount of time um, with your knitting can be really valuable. I know it is for me. So with that, I have been able to get a little bit of work done on my cobblestone. I know I had once said I thought this would be done in September. It wasn't. These things happen. So let me just show you where I am. You had seen the first sleeve finished. The second sleeve has been finished. This one I just left on the needles since I didn't need that needle again. Then I started on the body. Again, this is cobblestone and it's a Jared Flood pattern. It's worked from the bottom up. So this is the lower hem here at the bottom. Um, and now I'm just in the easy knitting part. I've got, I think, 17, 18 inches of just tube to knit, which is my favorite kind of knitting. Um, Very relaxing. It does have this little garter panel that goes up the side. I don't know if you can really see it, but it is nice and just gives me a little something different to do. Um, Last month, all month, Brooklyn Tweed celebrated their 10th anniversary. Um, they released Cobblestone as a cardigan as well as a couple other patterns, um, revised and then also new. So I know a lot of you had bought shelter from us during their promotion in the spring, Alone Together. So we would love to see what you have made or what you are making. So if you have a chance, if you haven't already, if you can post a photo on Instagram or Facebook, we would love to see. If you're on Instagram, we are doing a monthly drawing. So anything you've knit, Brooklyn Tweed or otherwise, with yarn that you bought from us here at Loop, if you post a picture on Instagram with the hashtag LoopKnitsFO, um, at the beginning of every month we do a drawing and we randomly select someone to win a $50 gift certificate. Um, we had some great entries last month. It's always fun to see what people are making. So please share. It's always fun. Laura's most recent finished object, speaking of finished objects, is Bond, which is a new project from Woolfolk using their new yarn straw. Um, as you can see right here, this is it. It's worked from the top down. It has a little bit of a turtleneck collar, little ribbed collar. Um, there is some short row shaping at the top to shape the neck. You work down just till under the underarms, and then you're separating the front from the back, and it's really open. So I think that's really clever, and I think it's really fun. Obviously, you're layering, um, but Laura knit this up in almost no time. It is a DK weight yarn. I know she was particularly taken with straw, so that was part of the fun. Straw came out in these 5 colors, all very natural. It is a blend of their merino with linen. Um, so it has a very natural feel to it. You can see there are some of the linen fibers do stick out, kind of adds to the look. I realize not everyone will like that, but I think it is particularly beautiful for people who do. Um, there's this natural color. There's like a warm color. This is more of like a fawn. There's the green, which is what Laura used for her bond, and there's the black. And they're nice because the linen doesn't take the dye the same way that the wool does, so you get this nice kind of heathered tweedy effect, which I think is really pretty. Um, this comes with options for sleeves. Obviously, Laura made the short sleeve version, and for that you need 6 to 11 hanks, depending on the size. For long sleeves, you'll need 8 to 14, depending on the size, and the pattern is available on Ravelry if you'd like to make one. So we're excited this fall to have some Rowan yarn back in the shop. When I first learned to knit, Rowan was my favorite. I love to knit with their yarns, and I love their patterns. Um, there's been a long period of time when I haven't worked with it, but I've always kind of followed what they were doing. So this year the time was right, and we have 3 yarns in and a fourth coming that I wanted to tell you about. The first one is felted tweed. For those of you who have knit for a long time, you know felted tweed. It is a classic yarn. It has been in the line forever. It's a blend of wool and alpaca with viscose. It's a DK weight, so it's light. It does have this nice tweedy look. It has a little bit of a halo from the alpaca, which makes it really soft and nice. It comes in an incredible palette of colors, which is kind of always fun just to look at the colors. Many, many good designs. If you look on Ravelry, years worth of designs. And of course, anything that is a DK weight or that you could get a gauge with, it would work great. K Facet recently designed some new things for it that just are classic Cafe. There's an oversized zigzag wrap that uses 17 colors and is just beautiful. If that's more than you're interested in, there's also a scarf. I don't remember how many colors it uses, but you still get that zigzag effect with a lot of colors. And of course, anything of his that has, you can always use fewer colors if you want, and you could always just choose a main color to kind of use throughout to separate all the colors. So don't feel like you have to follow it to a T. I'm sure Kate would not mind if you kind of put your own twist on it. So felted tweed is the first of the 3 yarns that we have this fall. The second new yarn that we brought in from Rowan this fall is called Alpaca Soft DK. This is not new to the Rowan line this season, but it is new to us. Again, this comes in just a great palette of colors. I have to tell you, when we met with our sales rep and she was showing this to us, it reminded me of Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran. That was a yarn that we carried for many, many years, made so many different things out of, and it was just, beautiful colors, beautiful twist, machine washable. It was great. That unfortunately no longer exists. This is a little bit different because this is wool and alpaca, 70 wool, 30 alpaca. It is also a DK weight, so it's thinner than the Cashmerino Aran. I think it's just the twist that really reminded me of it, and that was one of the things that I always really liked. This is remarkably soft. It just feels fantastic when you hold it. And this is one of those yarns, I think you could really make anything. You could make something for kids or teens. You can make something for your spouse, for yourself. There are fantastic patterns for this. So one that I like in particular is called the Moorgate wrap. It's a new collection. It's in a new collection called My London. And the designer, I think her name is Georgia Farrell, was inspired by London architecture. And it just appeals to me tremendously. I think that wrap uses 9 balls, so it's large. It's kind of modern looking. It has enough to keep you interested, but not overwhelmed, which is always my favorite. The whole collection is great. So there's that wrap that's 9 balls. There's a great hat that's just 1 ball. So it has a lot of options. And Rowan is now putting their patterns on Ravelry. Maybe they've been doing that for a while, but that's great as well. You don't have to buy the whole book if you don't want it. But if you want it, of course, take advantage of that. When I was with the sales rep, Meredith, who works in our downtown store, was with me. I was very taken by the My London collection. Meredith was very taken by Martin Story's new collection, which has a lot of color work and Fair Isle. And the Cosmos cowl was one that Meredith really fell in love with. So I think it really speaks to the yarn's versatility that you have 2 very different collections, both beautiful, all with this one great yarn. So I would encourage you to take a look. I think you'll be really pleased with it. The third Rowan yarn that we've brought in this season is Kid Sokays. This is an extremely popular yarn that's been in the line for many, many years. It is a blend of 70% mohair and 30% silk. So it is soft. It has a lot of halo to it. Um, the colors, I think the silk really gives it a lot of pop with the color. So there are kind of more subtle colors, but you really get great brights um, with a lot of shine from the silk and then the softness from the mohair. This is a great yarn to use by itself. You can use it doubled either with the same color, or you can create your own marls by putting them together. Um, it also works great. I'm going to bring back the Alpaca Soft DK. There's a lot of pairings that you can make with similar colors or different shades of the same color. Um, Petite Knits is a designer who does a lot with a smooth yarn and mohair. So you could use um, this for some of her patterns. Um, there are many patterns on Ravelry that you'll find since it's been in the Rowan collection for so long. Kate Fassett has done many things with it. It's really fun. Some people do find it challenging to knit by itself because it's light and it kind of hovers above your needle. If you make a mistake, you have to really take your time to unknit it slowly because the mohair really holds on to itself. I think it's a lot easier to knit it with something else. So if it's your first time and you want to experience it, that might be the way to go. We've also put it with Shelter. We've put it with Loft. I mean, you can really experiment with different yarns to see what it looks like. The only way to really know is to swatch. A lot of times people, including myself, will just hold them together and say, yeah, that looks great. But you really don't know what it looks like until you try it. So I would definitely recommend that. But I think that once you do, Kid Sokays might very well become one of your favorites as well. So I hope that you'll give it a try. So continuing with books that should be in your knitting collection if they aren't, today I wanted to talk to you about the Knitter's Book of Yarn. This book came out in 2007 from Clara Parks. Clara Parks, for a long time, had a newsletter called Knitter's Review. And actually, I feel like a knitting historian here. Before Ravelry, Knitter's Review had a forum that was extremely active. And you could ask all kinds of questions and just chat. And it was great for a very long time. And Clara would send out a newsletter every week about a different yarn, a different knitting event, all sorts of things. So when she wrote this book, this was a time when a lot of books were being published. And so I remember there was just a lot of excitement about this book. It is fantastic, and I'll tell you why. So if you've been knitting for a while, you may have made something that didn't quite work out. And the problem could have been that you used the yarn in a way that it really wasn't meant to be used. Now, that's not always critical, but I remember when I first started, there were times when, I used cotton when I really should have stuck with wool, or I tried to use wool when I should have used linen. You can substitute for gauge, and you can knit a swatch and get the right gauge, but it doesn't really mean that it's the right yarn for what you're trying to achieve. And the Knitter's Book of Yarn explains that to you. So Clara goes through the different types of yarn, how yarn is made and dyed, how yarn is constructed, talking about plies, and how all of those things impact the yarn and then impact the project. So once she's taken you through different types of yarn, how it's dyed, how it's made, there are projects that give examples of, this yarn was used for this pair of socks, and here's why, or this was used for this scarf, and here's why. It really opened my eyes, and I really started seeing yarn in a very different way. So I think it's a fantastic book. I think a lot of the designs still seem very fresh and really appealing today. So I would definitely take a look and see if this is something that you'd want to add to your library. It's just great reading. Clara now is a New York Times bestselling author, and you can see why just from reading this. It's very readable. You feel like she's just telling you about a favorite topic. So I highly recommend it. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.